The Generation 1 Pokemon AI is bad, right? But just how bad is it actually? When I played my Pokemon Red Nuzlocke on Twitch, I had a strategy from the start to abuse the AI's tendency to use stat changing and status effect moves to have super effective type advantage over my Pokemon to get an easy win against Lance. I first learned of this from Twitch Plays Pokemon, where Lance's Dragonite spammed Agility and Barrier against Twitch's Venomoth. After I finished my Nuzlocke, I wondered which other trainers this applied to, and if there were other strategies the AI would use to choose moves. In order to understand why Lance's Dragonite used Agility and Barrier, we have to first understand how the AI decides to use its turn in a trainer battle. The AI has the same options the player has, being able to fight and use a move, use an item, and finally switch to another Pokemon. Some trainers will use their items randomly on any turn of the battle, or use them randomly once a certain condition becomes true. Lorelei, for instance, has a 50% chance of using a super potion if her Pokemon's health drops below 20%. Brock is the only exception to this rule, as he will definitely use his full heals when his Pokemon has status effect. Switching also occurs randomly, but only for the Juggler trainer class and Agatha. No other trainer can switch. With that out of the way, we can look at how the AI decides which moves to use. In total, there are 3 different types of AI behavior in the Generation 1 games. To start with, each move is assigned a priority of 10, and the moves will have their priority increased or decreased based on the behaviors assigned to that trainer class. The AI will pick the move with the lowest priority, which is the one it deems best. If 2 or more moves share the same priority value, then the move is chosen at random from those moves with the lowest value. Something to note is that not all trainer classes have an associated behavior attached to them. Specifically, the Youngster and Cue-Ball classes choose their moves randomly with the priority of every move set to the default 10. The first type of behavior involves trying to avoid moves that cause status effects when the player's Pokemon already has a status effect. 5 is added to the priority of each move the AI Pokemon has that causes a status effect. For example, this means an AI trainer avoids Thunder Wave when the player's Pokemon is already asleep, paralyzed, or poisoned. A Pokemon can only have one status effect at a time, so it's logical to try to avoid using a move that would have no effects. The second behavior type encourages moves that have specific effects. It's also a behavior that is only applied on turn 2. Yeah, it's considered that this is an oversight and it should actually be applied on turn 1. These specific effects include raising the current Pokemon stats by 1 or 2 stages, lowering the player's current Pokemon stats by 1 or 2 stages, using a healing move, or using the moves Payday, Swift, Conversion, Haze, Transform, Light Screen, and Reflect. These moves have their priority decremented by 1. Where behaviors 1 and 2 were relatively straightforward, the final behavior, also known as the Good AI, is quite long and complicated, with multiple conditions that influence the move chosen. This behavior prioritizes moves that are super effective against the player's current Pokemon, regardless of whether they are damaging or not, by decreasing the priority of the move by 1. It also discourages moves that are not effective or that the player's Pokemon is immune to, by incrementing their priority by 1 instead. However, there's actually more to this. If you've ever played the Generation 1 games and noticed that sometimes text appears saying a move is super effective or not very effective when the move actually does neutral damage, this is because when a move is used against a dual-type Pokemon, where the move is super effective against one type and not very effective against the other, the text is based on the first match in a big long list of type effectiveness. This behavior decides whether a move is super effective or not based on the same logic. The AI would choose to use poison moves against a dual grass poison type Pokemon because poison being super effective against grass appears before poison being not very effective against poison. If the AI is left with a move that is not very effective or the player's Pokemon is immune to it, then there are certain special moves that are considered to be better. These moves have a priority order too, with Super Fang being the most preferred, then moves that perform special damage, those being Sonic Boom, Seismic Toss, Dragon Rage, Nightshade, and Psywave. And finally, the last better move is Fly. If the AI's Pokemon doesn't have any of these moves, then it checks for moves that will cause neutral damage. If there are no moves that deal at least neutral damage, then it will choose its moves randomly from all the moves available with the lowest priority. We can see this in this fight between Geodude and Lance's Dragonite. Even though psychic moves are neutral against Geodude, because they don't do damage, Lance will randomly choose any of his Dragonite's moves, even the not very effective Hyper Beam and Slam. So now that we know the three different types of AI behavior, what behavior is assigned to which trainers? Well, like I said before, youngsters in cue balls don't have any behavior at all and choose their moves randomly. The remaining trainers are all assigned behavior 1 by default. Behavior 2 is assigned to gentlemen, Pokemaniacs, psychics, scientists, and super nerds, as well as to Lorelei. Finally, behavior 3 is assigned to beauties, burglars, cool trainers, fishers, Giovanni, Pokemaniacs, rockers, sailors, swimmers, all of the gym leaders except Brock, all of the Elite Four except Bruno, and to the rival in every battle from the SS Ant onwards. To answer the initial question of why Lance's Dragonite only uses agility and barrier against Twitch's Venomoth, we can run through the above behaviors ourselves. Dragonite has the moves Agility, Slam, Barrier, and Hyper Beam. Behavior 1 is essentially ignored because none of the moves inflict a status effect, so only Behavior 3 will affect the move selection. Running through the algorithm for this, we leave Slam and Hyper Beam at priority 10 because they are normal type and do neutral damage. We decrement Agility and Barrier by 1 to priority 9 because they are Psychic type and are super effective. When the AI chooses its move, it will choose the move with the lowest priority, in this case 9. We have 2 moves assigned 9, so we randomly pick one of them and use it. These moves are, of course, Agility and Barrier. Therefore, the answer is yes. The AI chose the Psychic moves against Twitch's Venomoth because it thought the moves would do super effective damage. Now that we know this information and which trainer classes have this behavior, a human player, knowing the type of their Pokemon and the moves the opposing trainer's Pokemon has, can predict with certainty which move or subset of moves that the AI will pick in almost any situation, and pick strategies that will work in their favor. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.